Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode, our fifth episode of Queen Strategies Partners Show from the ground up. Real time issues with real time solutions for MWBE businesses. This is a brainchild of the collaboration of Queen Strategy Partners, the three of us. Danielle Douglas, Nicole Valentine, Esquire, and myself, Dr. Stacie N.C. Grant. And our desire is really to have some answers in these unusual times we're living in due to COVID-19 and the other epidemic that we're seeing erupt throughout our world. MWBEs, we hope and pray that you get the information that you need from this broadcast and all of our special guests that will help position you as you pivot. That's how we started out this series and really put you in a place where you can thrive post COVID-19 and the racial unrest that we see happening throughout our country. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce my co-host, Danielle Douglas, who will tell you a little bit about our show today.
So good morning, everyone. Again, Stacie and I are so excited that you are spending an hour with us this morning. And as we always say, we guarantee you that you are going to get a ton of valuable information that you could utilize now during COVID-19 as well as in the future. You know, knowledge is power. And once you utilize that knowledge, it becomes wisdom, and no one can take that knowledge away from you. So the information that Stacie and I have been providing, we hope that you really have been able to utilize it to take one step further or go one step further in your path to not only survive during COVID-19, but just as importantly, or even more importantly, to thrive. So with that said, as you know, if you've been with us for the past 5 webinars, including this morning, you should have an understanding that we have really been trying to give you, again, real-time solutions for real-time issues. We have tried to build upon the information that we provided to you. You know, the first webinar, we talked about pivoting, which is critically important to do during this time, regardless of what type of business you have. And from there, we talked about access to capital, maybe some of the loans that are available right now for business owners, such as the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Plan loan, or the EIDL loan, the emergency, what is it, Teresa? The emergency, well, it doesn't matter because it's gone.
The EIDL, yes.
So it's gone now. So you can no longer utilize that. But for some of us, for small business owners, we could not utilize those loans. And so we had guests such as Dr. Teresa Martin, who gave a wealth of information on how to navigate and pivot and look at other financial resources that can be of benefit to you. One of our webinars was on how to be bankable, and that in order to be bankable, you have to address the 5 C's, right? Cash flow, character, collateral, credit. And we wanted to, myself and Stacie and Nicole, we wanted to peel back the onion a little more and have you understand what it means to maintain cash flow. Because cash is king. If you don't have cash flow during this time, you will go out of business, as our guest Andrew Walcott discussed last week. And so to peel back the onion a little more, we brought Dr. Teresa Martin back to talk about credit, business credit and personal credit, which is critically important because you're going to need one, or if not both, of those of credit to be able to access lending. And so we thought you would want to hear about that. And so Dr. Teresa Martin is with us today. She is going to give you, this is one of her subject matter expertise, is to provide that information. And so without further ado, I want to introduce our guest, Dr. Teresa Martin. Dr. Teresa Martin helps her clients create financial legacies using her business acumen as an attorney and a business acceleration and profit optimization specialist. Her unique ability to work in diverse industries in multicultural environments gives her the agility to find unique opportunities for companies to significantly increase their revenue, profits, and market share. She has been featured in Money Magazine. She is a contributing author of Six Figure Magazine and is a co-author of Amazon's #1 bestseller, Entrepreneur on Fire: Conversations with Visionary Leaders, with Barbara Corcoran, billionaire real estate mogul and star of the hit ABC show Shark Tank. As the CEO of Generational Wealth Zone, LLC, Dr. Teresa is perfectly positioned to help small business owners realize their dream of building a multi-million-dollar business and achieve personal, financial, and professional freedom through her systematic marketing strategies and personal connections with many of the biggest names in the marketing world today. So without further ado, we want to welcome Dr. Teresa Martin, Esquire. It's great to have you back.
I am so excited to be here with you ladies because, this is such an important topic, especially for your MBWE members, because we as women, we really have to have this conversation because we're not having this conversation at the dinner tables and things of that sort. So this is a perfect forum for them to get all the information that they need to have, especially moving their business forward. So thank you for having me again.
Yes, we love you. And so, Teresa, can you share with us what's the difference between personal and business credit?
Well, the main difference is the personal credit is from the consumer side, where it's dealing with your mortgages, your credit card, your personal credit cards, and things of that sort, and it's from the FICO system, right? So that's the main difference between the personal and now the business credit is on your business. So that is from the business credit agencies. So even though Experian for business and Equifax for business and Dun & Bradstreet is on the business side, even though you're reporting on your personal credit and Experian and TransUnion and Equifax on your personal side, it doesn't equate to business credit. So it's kind of, and it's a different scoring system. So on the personal side, you have the scoring system from FICO, which ranges from 300 to 850, and then Vantage is 501 to 990, but that goes into the weeds. But that's one thing. And then you have the business credit score, and there's many business credit scores. Equifax has their own. Equifax for business has its own. The Credit Safe has its own, and Experian has its own. But Dun & Bradstreet is the worldwide known one, and that is Paydex score. And Paydex score, ranges from 0 to 100. So it's a different scoring system, and it's a different way that it's reported. So those are the main differences between personal and business.
Okay.
So
I'm sorry.
go ahead, Danielle.
I just wanted to ask, what would be considered good credit as it relates to business and personal credit?
80 Paydex score would be a good score for on the business side, and all that means is that you pay your bills on time. If you go higher, like let's say a 90 Paydex score, that means you pay before it's due type stuff. So it's a different way that they look at it, but 80 is where you want to be, okay? On your personal side, on the business side. On the personal side, 720 is where you want to be.
Okay.
And when I say want to be, now obviously you can always get credit at 580 and 620. But what rates are you going to be paying, right? Because that dictates your high risk, right? So you want to be at that sweet spot at a 720 so that you can be the ideal candidate where you got the best terms and you get the best interest rates. So that's why the sweet spot is about 720.
Okay, thank you. That's great.
I just want to build a little bit more on that question, the difference between business credit and personal credit, and why we're talking about both in the same sentence, because business owners, and we touched on that in a previous show, but I think, for our audience, especially our MWBEs, when we're talking about credit and the importance of it, what should they know with the 5 components when we talk about personal credit? Like what's all coming together to get you to that sweet spot of the 720 that you mentioned?
And this is a loaded question, Dr. Stacie. And so I know we'll unpeel that a little bit more, but let's start about, like you mentioned, this is a business conversation, right? And how does personal credit play into this whole, game plan of getting access to capital? Remember, I talked about, so if you guys missed it, you got to go back to the other episodes where we really delve deep into that. But you really want to be a part of the CIA, right? And the CIA we talked about was in order for you to go and get direct financing, which means direct funding, okay, you would need to be a part of the CIA. And the CIA is an acronym that stands for credit. So you want to access your good personal credit, which is why you need a 720 or higher. Or you want to have business income, which means you're generating business income in your business bank account at $10,000 or more per month. It's not going down, it's going up. And then the last A stands for assets. You're able to leverage your assets. Why? Because there's credit-based loans, there's revenue income-based loans, and there's asset-based loans. So if you don't have the ideal personal credit that you need, you can then, if you're building your business and you have business income, you can get revenue financing, right? Based on the income of your business. If you don't have revenue and you don't have the requisite credit, you have assets, you can then rely on asset-based financing. So those are the ways that you don't have to utilize your credit, but it gives you a double bang for your buck if you do. So I just wanted to bring that in on why we're connecting business with personal credit. Okay. Now back to Dr. Stacie's question, the components of credit, right? So the 5 components of your personal credit is that payment history, 35%, 35%. Let me say it again, 35% of your personal credit is related to your late payments and how you pay your bills. Payment history, 35%. So when people say, "Oh, can I, repair my credit on my own? What things do I need to do?" Pay your bills on time. That's the answer. Pay bills on time. That's 35%. The 30% is your debt level or your utilization rate. Right? So how much credit you have out there and what are you utilizing, right? So let's just say they always say 30%. I like 20%. I don't know. I love that number 20%, but let's just say 30%. You want to keep your utilization rate 30% of your total limit. So if you have $1,000 limit, you don't want to have over $300 outstanding balance, right? You want to keep it at that 30% level or lower. Okay, lower the better. Okay. The other thing is that you have the limit of credit. So 15% of your credit score is on the limit of credit. So how long you've had it. So if you've been paying on time on a credit card since you had from college, then obviously you don't want to cut that up. That's the longest history that you have. So your limit of credit, that helps you. Right? But if you're out there getting a whole bunch of credit, they look at that as well, right? So the longer you had your credit, that plays into the credit matrix, which is 15%. And then the next 10% is the mix, the different types of credit, installment, revolving, that type of credit mix, and then increase is 10%. And so I want people to be aware that increase do count towards your credit. And when you're out there shopping, you want to make sure that you have a plan of action when you're going out to get credit. And when you quote unquote just looking, you want to make sure you know what you're doing, because hard inquiries actually counts on your credit, and it takes 2 years to fall off your credit. So you just want to be very, very careful when you're dealing with personal credit. Now, I'm going to circle right back around with the personal credit. The reason why the 720 is very, very important is in business, it's your risk. So they want to know that you are a low risk because, one, your character is there because you're paying your bills on time and things of that sort. But it doesn't have to be you. What if you have, let's say, a 437 credit score? Okay, don't judge me. That was me, back in the day. Okay, don't judge me. Okay, so let's say you had a 437 credit score, because of foreclosures or whatever the case may be. But you're in business and you have a business partner. Just like in real estate, you have a credit partner. In business, you also have a credit partner. So you can rely on your partner's good credit as long as they have 20% of the business. So they have to be a 20% owner of your business in order for them to be able to be considered as a credit partner. So I just wanted to tie that right back in for you.
Let's pause. You unpacking a lot, Teresa, and I want everybody to get it. We got to slow it down and rewind because you're just hitting them with the facts, and we don't want our MWBs like, what? This is a lot, because it's great information. I also want to say hello to Valerie, Kim, Nasoma. Thank you so much for joining in the conversation this morning. Please like and share the broadcast for other MWBE businesses that you might know. But let's go back to those 5 components that you shared. And inquiries, right? People might not realize that inquiries are a portion. You said 10%. That's a considerable amount to look at, as well as length. But the very first one that you said, the ability to pay and how you pay. So rumor has it that if you can't make your full payments, what other options can you have in building your credit? Like, let's say all you have is $10. Will that $10 help if you owe them $200 for the payment per month?
Good question.
I saw that pause.
Good question. So
I'm just saying.
Got it. But let's take it from a strategy standpoint. Okay. So the answer is paying something is better than paying nothing. Okay. However, if you make less than the minimum, we should always strive to do minimums. We should always strive to do minimums. Okay. And when people ask me about what should they do with their stimulus check, that's what I said. Okay. I said, put it in the kitty, because we will come out of COVID, and your credit will be opened and revealed again. And you may need to now go and utilize that and leverage your credit. So you don't want to not pay, your minimum payments. So that is it. What if I don't have the minimum payment? Pay something. So yes, pay the $10. Will that hurt you? The only way that it would hurt you is if that creditor will mark it as not paid as agreed, right? So because you're not paying as agreed, because it's not the minimum payment, they can still mark that on your credit. And we'll unpack that, Stacie, when we talk about collections, because it's kind of weird. So paying minimum and should I pay off my collections? That kind of goes hand in hand in my mind. But so yes, the quick answer to that, and I'm an attorney, so I'm gonna go around the bush, before I get to the thing, right? So one of the things that I tell you, pay $10 if that's all you have. But I urge you, don't do the $10 on every single card. You want to at least make minimums on the ones you can make minimums on, and then contact the lender to let them know what you're doing. Come up with an agreement so they can make a notation on your account that you are unable to make this payment, whatever. Because even if you go into something where you have to go into court or litigate, or you're disputing something, those notes become record for your attorney to actually dispute that in a debtor's case. Okay, and I advise you to use debtor attorneys. And if you need help with that, please contact my office, because debtors attorneys, just so you know, you don't pay up front, and you don't actually pay. They pay. The bank pay. So if you have a debtor's case, that's why it's good to use debtors attorneys, so that they can fight and defend on your behalf. You've done everything that you can do in your corner. So that $10 may help you if you're making something. Don't make anything. Now we can't really talk unless you made notation of that as well. So that's that.
Hold on. I'm really excited. I know Danielle got another question, but hold on.
I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna keep the baton in you. You got the baton right now, Stacie. So keep it moving. I'll jump in when I can.
Well, look, we on a roll, Danielle. So that's why I'm like, wait, hold on, because MWBEs. How many of you knew about the specialty of debtor attorneys? Like that's why this conversation is so important from the ground up. We're talking about real-time issues with real-time solutions. So raise your hand if you're watching and you didn't know that a debtor attorney existed, right? There's specialties in every discipline. And you just learned about one because look, every entrepreneur at some point or another may go through a challenge financially, and no judgment, right? Teresa, when you share your story, I know I have mine. Danielle may have hers. Everybody that's watching, you go through something, but access to information is the way that you're able to conquer it. And that's why having this show is so important to Queen Strategy Partners, because we really want to be that resource to help you get past whatever stumbling block might be in your way in thriving and actually being a cash positive business. So thank you for sharing that, Dana. I just wanted to underscore that. And we're going to tell them how they can contact you and your team, because you're an attorney and a real estate like she's just the mom, But when you have those kind of resources, it helps you not feel hopeless when you're in a situation. Face it and fix it. And that's what we're talking about right now. So I just wanted to underscore that, and I'm going to pass it back to Danielle because she has another question to ask. But as we're talking about these components of personal credit, how to restore, we're going to get to that. But just understanding what it is. Knowledge literally is power, but applied knowledge can change the world.
Yeah.
All right.
And you can do things yourself. 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 I'm going to keep ringing that bell. You can do things yourself.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. But guess what? That goes back to webinar number 1 when we talked about how to pivot and finding your vessels, right? That's resources. So we do want to make sure that they understand, Teresa, that even though what you just said is about empowerment, it is also about resources as well, right? So we want to make sure they understand that. But based on what you were saying about inquiries, I wanted to ask you this. Is that, or just share your understanding of this, is that with inquiries, this is an opportunity for folks to really understand where they stand with their credit. And, and I'm speaking more so with personal credit. And I know during this time with COVID-19, they do have the opportunity to check and monitor their own credit, and that will not be perceived as a hard inquiry.
Correct.
So
I agree.
Yeah. So, I know a lot of times people think that if they even check their own credit, that may be like a ding towards their credit, where they need to understand they can check it on a monthly basis with all the 3 credit bureaus to monitor their credit and see what's showing up.
Absolutely. So that is the difference between a hard inquiry and a soft inquiry. A soft inquiry is your buzzword. You always want soft inquiry. So when you're doing things on your own, you're repaying your own credit, you're monitoring your own credit, that'll be a soft inquiry and will not negatively affect you at all. The hard inquiries was what I was talking about as far as that 2 years to fall off and things of that sort. That's when you're going out shopping for a mortgage, shopping for a car, shopping for furniture, and then you are allowing them to pull your credit. A little strategy that I tell people all the time is go ahead and pull your own credit reports. And you can even get your score if you want. And then you black out, all the pertinent information. And you just go, and when you're shopping, you give them that report and say, based on this number, I know you're going to pull your own, but based on this number, what can you get me? Because that would avoid them pulling hard inquiries on you. Okay. And then if you're going to go shopping around, what you want to do is you want to make sure you're doing it within a 2-week window. So if you're shopping for a car, you want to go and shop for that car for, a 2-week period. So you can go to Honda and Lexus or wherever you live in, right? I'm on the MTA, so I don't do all that. But and my husband, my chauffeur, so I don't have to do all that. So one of the things that I tell people is whenever you're going shopping, do it in that 2-week window. Why? Because every hard inquiry counts as one within that 2-week window. So you can go to 5 different places and they see you're shopping, because we do want you to be an informed consumer. So you do want to shop around and get the best rates and things of that sort. So if you do it within the 2-week window, you're not going to be penalized and be hit with all those different inquiries. So if you had 5 in that 2-week window, you'll only have 1 inquiry. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
So one more question, Danielle, that I want to just insert. I've heard about the opportunity, and others might, and I just want you to clarify as our expert, pausing your credit or putting a freeze. Good, bad, neutral. What's your response?
Neutral. If you do the credit freeze, it's neutral. The only downside to that is you have to unlock it or thaw it, is what they call it, whenever you're going to actually get your credit yourself, right? So you got a freeze, which protects you from identity theft, right? Which is different from a fraud alert, right? So a freeze, they can't even do anything, right? Because anytime you go for credit, they have to pull credit and things of that sort. So that's why the freeze is like good, okay? But a fraud alert, usually you just get an alert, somebody using your credit, and then they already got it. So, that's kind of, and then you got to go fight, right? So in that sense, it's a good thing. The downside to that is I'm going to get a car. So now I got to remember to thaw it out, or unfreeze it so that the people who I'm utilizing to pull my credit can actually do it. Now, and you can do it for this instance, or you can do it for a period. Like you can do a length of time, unfreeze it from this date to this date. Or you can just, say for this instance. So only for today, for this vendor, that's just, let them do it. You can do it that way as well. But it doesn't hurt you negatively, as far as your credit report and things of that sort.
Okay. So how do you begin to build business? I'm going to shift, but we're going to go back and forth between business.
Well, before you go to business credit, can I say one more thing? Because it's a good thing I think people need to know. As until April 20th, 2021, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion is allowing you to get free credit reports weekly from annualcreditreport.com. Didn't know if anybody knew that. So I just want to let you know, because remember, with annualcreditreport.com, you're only allowed one free one per year, every 12 months. So they have opened that during the COVID period, so people need to be monitoring their credit reports and things of that sort. So they now made it for April 20th, 2021, that you can get free weekly credit reports from annualcreditreport.com. Just wanted to make sure everyone knew that, because that's important since we're talking about personal credit and monitoring.
Okay. And you know what? I'm going to build upon what you just said, Teresa, and that is you're monitoring your personal credit. You see something is on there, then you have to be reactive. But what kind of things you touched upon? One, if you have to just pay the minimum amount due on your credit card, that's one tactic that you can use. Can you share with our audience other tactics that they could use to at the very least, try to maintain their credit so they do not come out of COVID-19 with bad credit, right? So again, we want to at least maintain, if not build and thrive, but at the very least, if you're having financial issues, at least if you can be conscious about maintaining your credit.
I would say the biggest thing is contacting the lenders. Really, this is not the time for you to not contact your lenders and have communication. Communication is one of the keys. I think it should be added to those 5 characters, those 5 C's. I think, communication needs to be added, because a lot of people fail to move forward because they're hiding and they're not contacting the lenders, creditors, or vendors. Contact them. Everyone knows about COVID. Okay. So this is not like, okay, well, you're making another excuse. Okay. Now, this is something that you need to talk about. So I would say make a list of all of your personal creditors, lenders, and vendors. Okay. Make sure that, you have the phone numbers and you contact them on a spreadsheet. The date you contacted them, the person you spoke to, and you make notations on what the conversation was and what they said they were going to do. Okay. Now, then you make sure that and then when they say, this may be recorded or whatever, I always tell them, yes, I want to let you know that this is recorded too. And most of the time they hang up. I don't even know what that's about. They don't want you to record them and record you. That's a little confusing to me. So I always say that just because, I do like to record my conversations, because I want to make sure that I'm talking to the person who can make it happen. And when I act according to what we agreed upon, that is now reflected on the credit. So that's the main thing. And then make sure you're paying your minimums if you can. Okay. And if you can't, note that and speak to the lender. Honestly, that's pretty much all we can do. This is not the time to go shopping for things that's not pertaining to our credit, because credit is going to be your greatest asset when we open up fully, in the economy. The other thing I do want people to understand is that paying off a collection account is not your biggest need right now, because a lot of people pay off collections thinking it's going to change. Okay. And I just want to touch on that, because a lot of people don't talk on this except for mortgage people. They'll talk on it, but I'm going to talk on it because it's so important. There's a grading system when it comes to credit. And in the world of mortgages and consumer credit, good standing means one. That's a number one. So if your mortgage is in good standing, it'll be M1, right? Your revolving credit is in good standing, it'll be R1. Get it? So it's one. Late payments is denoted as 2 to 9. So the later you go, the higher the number is. Collections is a 9. Okay. So that's a 9 where it's like almost written off if it's not already written off, right? Now, the reason I bring this up is because if you go and pay off a collection account, it doesn't change the 9. Does that make sense? It doesn't change the status of the account. The status is still 9. Now, it does help you because now you have a 0 balance, but it doesn't change the status from a 9 to a 1. So you're not moving that needle. So we have to have a plan of action when we're going out paying our debt. That's why a debt management plan is so important to put in place. And now in the midst of COVID, everyone better have, okay, now you hear me? You better have, you know how your mama say, you better have a debt management plan. So you want to make sure you know how you're going to do a management plan, how you manage your good, bad, written off debt. You got to have a plan how to attack that so you can strategically do it and you're just not throwing money where it may not be helping you the most. So that's one of the things that I would tell you, well, 3 things I would tell you to do if you want to kind of take this thing by storm and kind of empower yourself to do that. And if you need help, reach out to the resources that they have at the Queen Strategy Blueprint to be able to help you with that.
So let's talk about that real quick. When you say the debt strategy plan and the collections, so just they would have to call the Wealth Zone to be with you or meet with you and one of your partners, and we'll definitely tell them how they can do that. So you're saying that it's better to take care of the ones that are lower on the scale than, because the 9 is not going to change, and it's going to take, how long does it take, even if you were to pay off that collections account at a 9? How does that ever get adjusted? Is it never ever adjusted, or
it's very difficult to adjust until it falls off, right? And when we say fall off, remember the reporting cycle, right? We have statute of limitations, and statute of limitations is how long they can report it. And the statute of limitation, when I say they, the creditors, how they can report it. Statute of limitations runs from the date of your last activity. Right, so that's when the statute of limitations run. So if it's not from the date you opened the account, that's late payments, right? So from the date of the activity, so the statute runs. So let's just say you made your last payment, your activity on yesterday, but it's been late 4 years, and it was in a 7-year statute of limitation state where it would have fell off in 3 more years, right? Once you now pay that payment, you have now brought it back to 7 years. So you have re-aged the account, right? So where it would normally fall off. So the reason why I say it kind of depends. That's why you have to have a credit report audit. I tell people to do a financial checkup, just like you do a financial checkup every year. You do a financial checkup every year. And it's very important that you look at your credit, look at your income and expenses to see how you're maintaining your household. Remember, we talked about how everything you do is a P&L. Your household is also a P&L. How you run your household, I can probably guess how you can run your business. It's how you do anything is how you do everything. So run your household just like you run a business, because it is a business, right? When money come in, you got to set it out. You got to budget for the lights and everything like that. So that's one of the things that I would tell you, Dr. Stacie. So I don't know when it falls off in the credit restoration recovery process. We look at the statute of limitations. We look at the date of the last activity. And then, of course, if you're dealing with IRS, it's indefinite that it can stay on there. So we don't really know the real number, and nobody really knows because it keeps changing with the CFPB. So don't really have an answer for that.
So just to build upon what you just said, Teresa, I know that oftentimes what may happen is that a person may get called by a debt collector, and they are technically, the debt is past that 7-year window. But if the person, like if I'm called and then I get scared because the debt collector is calling me and I'm like, I'll pay you something, then like you said, the clock starts. If I don't know that if I'm past that 7-year window, they shouldn't even be still trying to pursue that debt.
Well, yes and no, because remember we talked about the re-aging. Don't know. Once you make a promise to pay, you re-age.
Right. So I'm saying they shouldn't make that. If they understand, me, the consumer, know it's past that 7-year window, I should know my rights, that they technically they shouldn't be pursuing me for the debt.
Because it fell off, correct.
Right.
Now, let's bring it back though. Let's say that comes into a charge off, right? It fell off and now it's a charge off, right? So I charge it off because I couldn't collect from you, whatever the case may be. Now you're going to get a mortgage. A mortgage is not going to allow you to go forth with a mortgage, unless you satisfied all these things. And that charge off may be one of them, right? So that's why I'm saying as far as a plan. So, remember, the biblical standards, it's like, we have to pay Caesar what Caesar's due. And we have to make sure that we're coming up with a debt management plan. But we also have in Deuteronomy, there's a 7-year to forgive debt, right? So we can take it all kinds of ways, but when we have it, we're supposed to pay it, right? So it's not that we're, shirking our responsibility. That's what I don't want people to think that we're doing. What we're doing is coming up with a plan, and we're not trying to avoid payment. Because if you owe under contract, that's your word. You gave your word that you were going to pay something. So I'm not by any means saying that if you have a contract to pay something and now you have the funds to pay it, because it's 7 years, I'm not going to tell you shouldn't pay it. That's not who I am. And I don't think that's who you should be. That's a character issue. Okay. When we're talking about people who legitimately cannot pay, don't have the means to pay, and the lender, creditor, vendor may not have worked with them to do that. That's who I'm talking about. So I'm not talking about people trying to get around the system. So we just want to be clear. If you owe, you have an obligation to pay. Okay, that's first and foremost. If you cannot, you make arrangements to do that. If you are beyond the 7-year period, that's your right, and they should not be collecting from you, and you should let them know. This is a 7-year debt. I do not wish to negotiate with you any further, and then hang up the phone. And then they do what they need to do, and then you move forward. But just understand that it can come back to you. That's what I want to just reiterate.
Okay. And please know that I wasn't trying to tell people that work around the system. No, I was not saying that. I just want people to know their rights. And what you said, for them to understand that, because oftentimes people get harassed,
right?
And they don't, and they get scared, and they don't know their rights. So that I was just wanted them to understand that they do have rights as a consumer.
Even harassment is something you can go to a consumer debtor attorney for.
Right.
Okay. You can actually, that's actionable. You can actually file action against a creditor for harassment. Okay. So, people calling you at 9 o'clock at night, and they calling you and showing up at all this other kind of stuff. They can't do that. So that's a part of your debtor's rights. And it's important that you know that. So you can make sure you hone up on that or get information. If you have collection letters that's coming to you, you don't understand what's going on, you can send it to a debtor's attorney, and they can actually start a process where they can start, helping you take action and acting in your stead. So make sure you know that. And if you decide, because we deal with our older generation, they don't like people calling them, right? That's why we have to educate our elders, because people will call, harass, they send in money, and they don't know who they're sending it to and things of that sort. So I say this for the benefit of those who are caretakers for the elders, and also for you and your benefit. If you do decide, because you have the funds, to pay off a collection, okay, we're not talking about credit, we're talking about collection, make sure you negotiate that the payment is contingent upon pay to delete. Remember? So I said before that, remember, Dr. Stacie, you asked me, how long does it take for 9 to whatever? I said, well, it depends if it's going to fall off or anything like that. Now, if you are going to pay it, make sure you negotiate for a pay to delete, which means I'm going to pay and you're going to delete off my credit. So now all the negative is removed. right? So if you're going to negotiate it to get off, let's get the real deal and make sure you agree to do a pay for delete. Okay, it's just like a satisfaction letter in a mortgage or whatever. You pay it off, you get a satisfaction letter that's paid and agree. You also want to negotiate pay to delete, because all this negative you want off your credit. So if you're going to negotiate to pay the collection off, pay to get that 9 off. Take it off, pay it. And that would be the reason why you would do that. So I hope that was helpful to someone.
It was very helpful.
Yes, and hey, Karen, thank you for joining in. We just want to say hi to everybody. Some of you are sharing this broadcast. You're letting people know about the information from the ground up. Once again, we're here with real-time issues, with real-time solutions. Teresa is dropping all sorts of jewels up in these open streets. So somebody got blessed today, I assure you. But Danielle, another question, because I'm so excited because I know this is going to help people right now. Don't be ashamed of where you are, what you're going through. Everybody goes through something. And the key is getting this information can correct it. If you come out of COVID with nothing else, you'll come out with some more information and be educated on how you can make the end of 2020, because Lord knows 2020 is shaping up to be quite a year for the history books, but you'll come out of everything better as a result of getting these resources. So Dr. Teresa Martin, Esquire, oh my goodness, we're almost halfway done. Danielle, I don't know, my head is blown. Go to the next question. This is
well, we are going to go to, kind of transition to business credit, but I just want the audience to know this is a very organic conversation that we're having. So, Teresa may say something and drop another jewel, and we may jump back to something about personal credit. So just flow with us, be flexible. And, the most important thing is that, as Stacie said, that you take this knowledge and hopefully you utilize it for your benefit. That's the most important thing, right? And so with that said, Teresa, in regards to business credit, what can the folks do to actually begin to build business credit if they have not done that already? And when you provide your answer, can you talk about, like you already mentioned, Dun & Bradstreet and that Dun & Bradstreet number and all of that? So if you can share that, it will be appreciated.
Well, it's really good that we're talking about, the personal credit side, because the first thing that I tell people is when you're building business credit, we have to do it side by side simultaneously with your personal credit, because you really, yes, it is a separate identity. Your EIN is separate and apart from your SSN. So we do know that, but we don't want to ignore, because you want to get the biggest bang for your buck, the double punch, if you will. So you want pristine personal credit as well as pristine business credit. And so I don't really care if right now you are at, a negative. Okay, the first thing that we want to focus on is taking the negative and making to zero. So sometimes zero is good. Okay, zero might be in a good position if you're starting for zero. So this is real talk. All right, so this is no time for you to be embarrassed, ashamed, or whatever. Trust me when I say, with my ESQ, and I had to figure out how to, navigate foreclosure, bankruptcy, and get my credit score from 437 up, so I can actually get money from a bank without a gun. You know what I'm saying? So I had to do what I had to do. So my thing is, it's okay. The problem is if you stay in there trying to figure it out in your own head, and not getting the resources that you need, and you going to Pookie and them, because Pookie and them ain't on this call. So you need to make sure that you actually have the information and you're at the right place, that you're getting this information. So I just want to just make sure I piggyback what Dr. Stacie said, because sometimes we hear it, but it doesn't resonate with us, and we're still trying to put on airs. And this is no time to put on airs. We want to get it right, because this is June. And we are in mid-course correction. So everything that went bad or went wrong or didn't go according to plan, we can now have time to reset and press the reset button. And that's where we are today. This is reset. Now, your credit is not where it needs to be. You have a business, and now you need to try to now go after business credit, because you still feel as though you can't get business credit without your personal credit. Now, the reset button. Here we go. So now we're resetting to business credit. And one of the things that we want to focus on is starting right. So, remember we talked about the steps on how to set it up. So make sure before you start going after business credit that you actually have your business set up right. And when I say right, it's registered with the state, whatever state you're doing business in. Okay. You also have a business address. Without a business address, you're not going to be able to get business credit. Okay. Also, you want to make sure before you go out and try to get business credit that you also have, listed in 411, because some of the business vendors, they check to see if your business is listed in 411. And you can actually do that yourself. To do that is tied to the FCC. So you can really kind of do that. And then you also want to make sure you have a website and an email, a professional email, not partygirl2020@gmail. That's not going to work. Okay, we actually need a business address, okay, that looks credible, okay, and have that. The reason why I say that is because lenders, vendors, and creditors will do a search on you. And if they look on your website, they should find out everything they need to know about your business. Right? So that goes into the social media presence. That wasn't the case before. Now they are going into the social media presence. And one of the things I can tell you is I had on my site, and this goes into Dun & Bradstreet, so don't think my attorney mind is wandering. It's still going into DMB, but this is before you go to DMB, because what happens is people go to DMB because they know it's free. They go list themselves, and then things are not in order. Now their DMB information is incorrect. Now you got to go through the process of now repairing the DMB listing. And so I'm trying to give you the nuggets before you go to the DMB so that you can do it right the first time, right? So what does it say? Measure twice, cut once. That's what I'm trying to help you do, right? And the reason why your website is so important is because I remember when I had, because I do credit development education and coaching. So, but I don't provide credit repair services. I don't do credit fixing for you. I have, lenders and vendors and, 2,200 in my Rolodex that, who does the actual work. I just get you ready to do it and make sure that you don't get turned down. So everything you apply for, you get approved, right? So that's my job. But I had credit on my website. Do you know PayPal of all things, put a freeze on my PayPal account stating that I had to show that I was licensed to do credit repair, credit whatever. And I was like, I'm not doing credit repair. What are you talking about? And it was a hidden page, right? So it wasn't even showing on the main navigation toolbar. It was like hidden, okay? And, so they can go to way back. Right, when I was involved and did some credit repair companies, I worked with them. I wasn't with them, but I was with them, and I took it off, and that was like 10 years ago. But remember, way back, the service way back can go way back on your website 10 years. So they can find stuff on your website that you removed, that you ever put out on the internet, and anything like that. And underwriters will search. That's why I'm saying be very careful when you're going out trying to apply for business credit, because things that you may have had on your credit, your website before, you may have to explain, like I had to explain to PayPal that I do not provide credit repair services. I actually am a credit development coach specialist. I know the business credit and the credit system. Therefore, I help my clients, maximize and optimize their business credit. So they opened it back up. But the point that they actually did it was what I'm telling you guys. So just make sure. And another thing with that is don't use PayPal as your only source of merchant accounts, okay? Because that can happen. You might be running, $50,000 in merchants going through PayPal or whatever the case may be, and they shut you down, you out of business. So you want to make sure you are using other services, merchant accounts outside of PayPal and Google Wallet and all this other kind of stuff. So Dr. Stacie has, contacts for that, but you definitely want to make sure you set up merchant accounts. Now, here we go. So for the business, the business credit Dun & Bradstreet. So Dun & Bradstreet is basically the universal number. So it stands for the Data Universal Numbering System. And you can get it from free from Dun & Bradstreet. So you don't have to pay anybody to get that done. for you. And all the DMB number, Dun and Bradstreet, so that's what it is, the DUNS number. All the DUNS number is a 9-digit number that's issued by Dun and Bradstreet, and it's assigned to each business location, okay, in the DMB database. So if you have a business that is similar to others, just like in personal credit, it might get merged. Right. So you remember how in personal credit, you might have, John Baker Sr. and John Baker the third. OK, and that's why John Baker Sr. stuff might appear on John Baker's third account. Right. Same thing is in business credit. So if you are, let's just say you are, ABC Inc. and you are licensed to do business in New York, but you haven't registered in any other states. And then you have an ABC LLC in Florida. Can you see how that might be kind of similar? Because of the name. So that's why you have to make sure that when you're doing your listing, that you are actually listing your company the way you set it up. So if you put Inc., put Inc. Don't put Inc. and then put Corp. Okay, if you registered as ABC Limited Liability Company, don't put ABC LLC on some documents because it gets confusing. It's not a match. So however you form your company, however you register your company, that's how you need to list it on Dun and Bradstreet. That's how you need to open up your bank account. That's how you need to open up your utility account. That's how you need to open up everything so that everything matches that name, so it doesn't get confused. So the DUNS number, that 9-digit number in their database, each business location is unique, separate, and distinct operation for that purpose. And that without a Dun and Bradstreet number, a DUNS number, you're not going to be able to get a PAYDEX score. Okay, so that's what the Dun and Bradstreet number is.
So can I just pause you for one quick question? Mm-hmm. You mentioned you have to have a business address. Just for NWBEs who might be operating their businesses out of their home, is their home address still valid if a portion of their home has been designated for business?
As long as it's actually designated for business. That means it's listed on your tax returns as a business. Okay, you can't operate as a home-based business and you're not utilizing that as a true business. Remember, you still may have to get business insurance. Where's your business insurance at? Is that included in your homeowner's insurance? Is there separate insurance? So all this goes hand in hand. So yes, you can use your home office as I use my home, my co-op as just a satellite. I do have a physical office, but I use my satellite because right now we might be home. I might have to close my physical office if we don't come out of COVID, right? So, but it's written off on my tax return so they know. So everything that I utilize in this space is there, and then everything has to be secure because I'm an attorney. So I have to make sure that I have fireboxes and all that kind of stuff. So depending on how you're doing business and how you're reporting your business, the answer is yes, you can use it. I encourage people to do a virtual office only because the type of business that you do, you might have disgruntled clients. You don't want them to know where you live. You don't want them coming to your home, because, you didn't give them a refund or whatever. I don't know what the scenario would be. I just don't think it's wise to do business out of your home where that's your shelter and your family lives. I just really believe, I do know cutting costs, but my thing is $99 is virtual office space. Okay, if we can't afford $99 for a virtual office space to be separate and apart from our person, I would challenge you to sit down with a business strategist and we work it out to find out why we're in business, because we're only talking about $1,200, a year. And that is an expense that obviously your bookkeeper CPA will help you, leverage. So we really don't want a nickel and dime when it comes to our business, because in the long run, it may affect us. And that's what we talked about PPP, right? When we weren't set up right. And a lot of people couldn't qualify because they weren't even paying themselves a minimum salary. So we really have to make sure we know where we're going to cut costs and where it doesn't make any sense. Okay, we're spending money on inventory, but our business foundation is not set up. Not wise. Not wise at all.
That's a whole nother show. We almost wrapped up on this show. You go into a whole other show. I do want to shout out our Assemblywoman from Queens, New York, Licia Hyman, that joined in. Thank you for being here. And there was a question on the resident address, but you already answered that. And we appreciate the questions in the feed as well. And I'm going to let Danielle just go with the last question. We're kind of going to merge the last two questions into one because we're almost at the end of our show. But this has been so much information. If you're watching us for the first time, share this video with somebody. Just click share right now. Post it on your page. Say, attention, all business owners, particularly MWBEs. Make sure that you check the notification that you know when we go live every Tuesday, 9 a.m., from the ground up, real-time issues with real-time solutions. We're really here to offer you what you need so that you can be successful and thrive post-COVID-19. That was you. Look, that was a word. Like, I feel we need the choir to sing and we need to pass the offering plate. All right,
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So, Teresa, again, you always provide such great information, and it's like the hour goes by so quickly with you.
It does.
You are so, yes, you still, give such valuable information. We want to thank you. And just to build upon what, Stacie talked about, this is the last question, but in regards to business credit, one, do business owners have to pay to get business credit done for them? Because I know that Dun & Bradstreet, they try to offer that as a service, right? And so that is, business owners need to be clear. They could do it on their own. And two, the other thing is, can you share, even if they decide to do it on their own, how can they do it? Is it that they work with vendors that has a Dun & Bradstreet number themselves, so it can automatically populate on their report? What are some tactics that they can do to build their business credit?
Okay, sure. So yes, Dun & Bradstreet does offer a credit builder, and I believe it starts at $139 a month for them to do that. So to answer your question, Danielle, no, they don't need to do that. They can and they should build business credit on their own. First, I'll tell you how, and then I'll tell you why most people don't. Okay, so that'll kind of navigate that. How is the only thing that you really need to do is, once you set up everything credibly, remember you got to have the address and have your business bank account and all that jazz. So we talked about that. Then you can go out and get vendor credit. Vendor credit is, think about vendor credit as starter credit for like secured credit, like we do for personal, right? Now you getting your credit and you go get secured credit cards and things of that sort to start building your personal credit. In the business credit world, that's like vendor credit. So basically you can go get vendor credit, and vendor credit is basically somebody like Quill. And I know you guys heard about Quill. So it's like Quill, and you can go and you can apply and you can get net 30 terms from Quill. So net 30 terms means that you can purchase something from Quill, and you don't have to pay back for pay it in full until 30 days. So that's net 30. Net 15, you have to pay in 15 days. Net 90 days, right? So you get the point. So what happens is, when you're looking for vendor credit, you have to find out before you apply, where do they report? Do they report to D&B? Do they report to Experian Business? Do they report to Equifax Business? Do they report to Credit Safe? Or do they report to all three? Obviously, you want to go with the vendor who reports payments to all three, or at least two, so you can get the double bang for your buck, because you really want 10 reporting trade lines in order for you to move into more revolving type credit line. So you want to start with building business credit with starter accounts, and doing that with Quill or Uline or something like that is easier for you to do, because as long as you have an EIN, you can start building with these different vendor trade lines. Okay. And with D&B, you're going to want to have 2 or 3 of these vendor accounts in order for them to give you a profile and score. So you need to go and try to get at least 2 to 3 reporting trade lines before D&B can give you a good profile and score. And remember, you want to try to get that payback. Okay, but you don't need to pay DMB to have these reported to your report. Okay, you just need to find items that you want to buy, apply for the credit, use that credit, and pay the bills timely. And that's how it can report, and that's how you can do it on your own.
Wow, I mean, we're at almost the top of the hour. That right there was golden. Again, sharing that with everyone. And hey, Shanice, good to see you. And this was. I hope that you all make this go viral. This right here in the game changer when credit is such an issue, as Danielle said before, like we're really praying that you utilize this information in a way that will get you the results that you seek. You know, you said it, Dr. Teresa Martin Esquire, it's reset, doing this reset mode. So let's reset and let's get that shmoney, as the kids would say. But
Very important.
Thank you so much for being a part of From the Ground Up. You are a featured expert. Danielle, I think we can just agree, right? Like we'll always be calling on her as our featured expert for different topics. We have more to come with the variety of experts that we're going to be bringing to you in the next couple of months moving into fourth quarter. You don't get ready for the fourth quarter in the fourth quarter. You start early. So now we're shifting and we're making sure in this reset moment that we're setting it up, and from the ground up, we're here to be that support system for you. You can visit and learn more about Queen Strategy Partners at queenstrategy.com. Thank you for being here. We'll also have our episodes uploaded on our new YouTube channel. So tell your friends, tell everybody. From the Ground Up is here to be that resource for you. Real-time issues with real-time solutions. So on behalf of Danielle Douglas, Nicole Valentine Esquire, and myself, Dr. Stacie N.C. Grant, thanks for tuning in, and make sure you mark your calendars to be with us again next week, same time, same place. And Dr. Teresa Martin Esquire, we love you and we thank you.
Thank you.